Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Just hanging up some laundry here. The work doesn't stop just because you come home. But you know what? I thought I'd take some time and make a video about something I usually don't like to talk about, because I usually don't think that I know enough about it. But a couple of years have gone since I started collecting watches, and I thought I should talk about it at least once. Just give it a try and see what comes out. There are a lot of channels out there talking about more than just watches. They usually talk about what to buy, what not to buy, how to invest in watches and how not to invest in watches, which watches are going to go up in price and which watches are going to plummet in value, which watches are gonna get released. And I don't usually do that stuff. I'm content with showing you watches and showing you my experience of watches that I get home. But this day I thought I'd do something different. I'm gonna give you my opinion about value and how I see value, because I've come to a point in my collecting where I'm actually enjoying really cheap watches, but I'm also enjoying more expensive watches, and I'm gonna talk about my experience of what value is and how I see it. So let's find a better spot and we're gonna talk about it some more. Let's go. Okay guys, let's give this video a try. A month ago or so I decided to buy a Pagani Design Submariner Homage. I really like how the Submariner looks. The new Submariner with the maxi case. I love that watch, but since I'm a preschool teacher, I don't have an infinite amount of money, and I recently splashed out a really hefty premium for the Rolex GMT Master II, and I have my tutor, and it takes me a while to save up that kind of money so that I can just buy a Rolex Submariner. So I was actually actively looking for something that looked like the Submariner but is not a replica, and that's where Homage watches come into play. And I decided to buy the Pagani, and actually I took it with me to work because I have a guy at work and he's mildly interested in watches. So I took it with me just to show him what kind of watch you could buy for $80. And instantly when I showed him the watch, he loved it. He wanted to buy it from me right away, which he did. I just told him that I have to make the video first, but he wanted it right away because he's not a watch collector, but he knows what a Rolex Submariner is and how a Rolex Submariner looks, and he knew that the Pagani's design looked almost the same, and in his eyes he has never been able to understand why people would pay $1,000 for a watch, $5,000 for a watch, $9,000, $10,000 for a watch. You get the point. And I showed him the Pagani. He loved it, and a couple of weeks later I bought the Davosa Ternos 200. You can see it right there. I hope I'm right at the camera. It's also a Rolex Submariner Homage, but it's a Swiss-made watch, better quality, a better watch, but it also costs like 10 times more than the Pagani Design watch. And I brought it with me to work, and I showed the guy this watch, and he couldn't really understand why I would be ready to pay 10 times more for this watch when in his eyes it looked almost identical to his watch, and since they look almost in his eyes identical to the Rolex Submariner. And I tried to explain it's the same thing because this guy, he's really interested in, I don't know why, but he's really interested in tires. When he's buying tires for his cars, he really likes to buy the finest tires, the best tires. And I'm trying to explain to him it's the same thing, because I don't care about tires. I can buy cheap tires or middle class tires as long as they have a really good braking distance and stuff like that, but I'm not interested in that, so I'm not gonna splash out a lot of money on it. but you are interested in it and you splash out a lot of money on it. I'm interested in watches. That's why I like to spend money on watches. Value for a collector, we don't care about value. And I think that that's the conclusion I'm gonna make by the end of this video. But I just want to show you a couple of watches in different price ranges and talk a little bit about what you get in the different price ranges, how it looks like, and what you're actually paying for. So let's take a look at the watches and I'll meet you guys later. Okay guys, here they are. As you can see, I have a gap here and a gap there. It's because I was hoping to have the Pagani Design right here, so I'm gonna edit in a picture of it, and I was supposed to have the Ginault Ocean-Rover right here, but that watch I sold a while back ago, and the Pagani Design I also sold to a friend, so I don't have them anymore, but they're still gonna be in this value comparison. So let's begin with the Pagani Design. And I'm going to show you some footage from my latest video when I talk about this watch. It's an $80 watch, automatic watch with some kind of cheap basic Chinese movement, probably the cheapest you can find on the market. But it's a stainless steel watch and it has sapphire glass, ceramic crystal. I don't think it has any confirmed water resistant, but if it has, it's probably like 50 meters or something, but I don't think. I reviewed the Ternos and they don't guarantee any water resistance. I'm not really sure about the Pagani, but it doesn't matter. So here we have it, the starter watch. It starts at $80. So let's take it one step further. This is the Phoibos PY007B. Comes in a bunch of different colors. It's an automatic watch with a proven movement with the Miyota 9015, reliable movement. It's been with us for a while. Stainless steel watch, sapphire crystal, ceramic bezel, 300 meters water resistance. Phoibos has 2 years warranty on their watches. And they have, this is, I think the PY007 was one of their first watches. It's a obvious homage to the Rolex Submariner, but they have a lot of watches that are totally original in design. Good bracelet. We have push pins for the links. It's a good watch. This watch comes in at $300, 4 times more than the Pagani Design. $300 US. Okay, let's continue with the Steinhart Ocean One GMT 39 millimeters. And this is actually, I get it, it's a GMT movement. It's a totally different complication than the other ones, except for the GMT over there. So it's a little more complicated watch, but it's still in this comparison because it's an obvious homage watch. And I have it around. I'm gonna send it away tomorrow, so I had to make this video today. But anyway, Steinhart Ocean One 39 millimeters GMT comes in at $600 approximately. So it's twice the price of the Phoibos, and it's actually 8 times more expensive than the Pagani. And in here we have a Swiss movement. It's a Swiss-made watch with a Swiss movement. It's either the ETA 2893-2 or the Sellita SW 330. Stainless steel, sapphire glass, ceramic bezel, 300 meters water resistance. It's a beautiful watch. but still, we're talking about value in this video, so consider the price. It's 2 times more expensive than the Phoibos, and you could say, yeah, it is. They have a lot of similarities. They're both homages. They both have sapphire, both have ceramic glass, stainless steel, 300 meters water resistance. This is a more complicated movement inside it, since it's a GMT and it's Swiss made, which the Phoibos isn't. So but still 2 times more expensive than that one, and 8 times more expensive than the Pagani Design. Let's put it back there, and let's continue with my newest acquisition, the Davosa Ternos 200. Beautiful Rolex Submariner homage. Really good Cyclops. Comes in at $800 approximately. So it's $200 more expensive than the Steinhart, even though the Steinhart is a GMT with a Swiss movement, Swiss made watch, Swiss movement, Swiss made watch, but still $200 more expensive than the more complicated movement in the Steinhart. Ceramic bezel, sapphire crystal, stainless steel, 200 meters water resistance, 300, unknown, and still it's more expensive. Davosa is a brand that's been with us for a while. I think it's an older brand than both of those. I mean, it's an older brand than all 3 of those. So maybe that's what you're paying for here. And the movement inside here is some kind of, they called it something with DV something, but it's a modified ETA or Solita. It really doesn't say on their website exactly what movement is inside here, but still, it's some kind of, they're not in-house, it's modified. Here we have it on the wrist. There it is. Beautiful watch. I really like it for what it is. We have a good bracelet. We have screwed links. Yeah, and I forgot to tell you, the Steinhart also has screwed links. There are the screws. Sorry, I was supposed to show you that. Screws are right there. Put it back there. So even though it's a basic movement with the date, even though it's not as complicated as the Steinhart, it's $200 more expensive than the Steinhart, and it's actually 10 times more expensive than the Pagani Design. 10 times. You can buy 10 of those for 1 of this. So let's put it back down. I'm sorry, I'm allergic to grass pollen, and we have a lot of grass pollen in Sweden here today. This is the Ginault Ocean-Rover, the first one, not the second edition, with the aluminum bezel. It's 1,000. Actually, when I bought it used, but when I bought it, you could buy them new from the Ginault website for $1,500 US. That's 2 times more expensive than the Davosa, approximately, and 20 times more expensive than the Pagani Design. It's automatic movement. It's they regulate it themselves, so they call it something like it's supposed to be an in-house movement, but it's basically a modified Solita SW200. It's made in USA, as it says on the dial, whatever that means. There's been a lot of speculations about that. Stainless steel, sapphire glass, aluminum bezel insert, 300 meters water resistance, but still 2 times more expensive than the Davosa, approximately, and 20 times more expensive than the Pagani Design. So you could buy 2 of the Davosa watches for 1 of this, and it's actually Davosa is a brand that's been been with us for a couple of years more than the Ginault. So it's supposed, if you're talking about brand recognition, Davosa is a fairly, actually more of a recognized brand than Ginault. But Ginault, they have a really hardcore fan base. So yeah, I really don't know what you're paying for here and why you're paying it. I paid for it, but I bought it used. I would never buy it new for that price. Let's continue. Here we have the big boy, the Rolex GMT Master II. Pepsi. This is a $10,000 watch, if you're lucky. I wasn't lucky. I paid the premium. I bought it with stickers and plastic, so I bought it new, but from a gray market dealer. So it was far more expensive than $10,000. But anyway, we're gonna assume it's $10,000 because that's what the price they're asking for at the Rolex website, and that's what it should be. In-house movement. Rolex makes everything themselves. Swiss made, stainless steel, better stainless steel, you could argue, with the 904L stainless steel. Rolex is the only watchmaker that uses 904L steel. Sapphire glass, ceramic bezel insert, 100 meters water resistance. So you could buy approximately 125 Pagani Design watches or one Rolex GMT Master II. This is by far the most expensive watch here. It's more than 10 times more expensive than the Davosa Ternos 200 over there. Yeah, it really is something when you talk about value like that. It makes you think and wonder and reflect about things. But I've come to a conclusion that I like really much. That's my own conclusion, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute. Here we have it on the wrist. I love this watch. So there we have them, all lined up for you. And I'm gonna say it once more. Pagani Design, $80. Phoibos PY007B, $300. Steinhart GMT Ocean One 39mm, $600. Davosa Ternos 200, $800. Ginault Ocean-Rover Generation 1, $1,500. And the Rolex GMT Master II, $10,000. You just think about that for a moment. You just let that sink in, and then we're going to talk about my conclusion for all of this, because it's obvious. I've owned the cheap ass watch, and I paid a stupid amount for a fully stickered up Rolex GMT Master II on the gray market. So I'm really on both ends here. I have no trouble with the cheap watches and with the Homage watches, but I have no trouble paying a stupidly insane premium to have the real deal. And I don't know if a lot of collectors are like me, because as I can see on the forums, a lot of people are either or. They either love genuine watches, the real deal, and are really expensive watches, and they hate homages, or they really love homages and think that people are stupid for paying that much money for the real deal when they can have something that looks like the real deal for far less. I don't know if a lot of you are like me, liking both sides, but I like both sides. And now I'm gonna talk about my conclusion. So I'm gonna switch the camera around. And so, what's the conclusion? What's my personal conclusion? Value has nothing to do with it. Value has nothing to do with this hobby. Sure, there are a lot of people out there enjoying the hobby and buying and selling watches for a living and making a good living out of it. But for most people that are just collectors like me, just loving watches, loving experiencing new watches and loving horology and learning new stuff every day, value is nothing but a small bonus for us if it checks out. There are really few watches out there that keep their value. There are really few watches out there that are a good investment. Most of the times you lose money on buying new watches. The same way, maybe not really as extensive as buying new cars, but maybe it's comparable. If you buy a new car directly from the factory, it'll lose a lot of money just driving it out of the driveway. And a lot of people like expensive cars. They like BMWs, Mercedes, Porsche, whatever. You like expensive cars, you like collecting cars, you're interested in that thing, then you're ready to pay the price. The same with us watch collectors. We're interested in watches and we're ready to splurge out an insane amount of premium for a Rolex GMT Master II at the height of its premium hype, and that's just insane. A sane person wouldn't do that. Actually, a sane person, I think, would think a lot of like my friend at work does. He sees a watch, and he sees that it costs $80. He sees another watch, and he sees that watch costs $8,000. He looks at them both. They look the same. He doesn't care about the specifics. He doesn't care about the history, the material used. He just sees the cheaper option, and it looks the same as the more expensive option, and he chooses the cheaper option. But that's the fun with collecting. Once you get into a hobby, it doesn't matter what kind of hobby it is. For me, it's watches. For him, I told you before, it's tires for some reason. For other people, like collecting cars. Some people like collecting World War II trivia. I don't know. But whatever you're collecting, when you're in the collection wheel, you just don't care about value. It's not that important. You just want something. And it's the same when I pursued my wife, a beautiful blonde girl. I started working at a school and she was the gym teacher there. She was beautiful and perfect in any way, and I knew she was way ahead of me. And the looks game, she was way too pretty and too hot for me, but I didn't care. I just wanted to have her, and I set my mind straight, and I just gave it my all. And today we're married and have 2 children, and life is really good. And that's the same with wanting something that's not rational, that's not logical. You just want it, and no matter what it costs, you just want to buy it. And that's why I bought the GMT Master II. But it was a really stupid thing to do, buying it when it costed as much as it did, because a sane person would wait. A sane person would wait out the hype and maybe buy it 10 years from now or 20 years from now. But I didn't care. I just wanted it now, and I didn't want to wait, and I just bought it. But I'm really glad that I'm able to, at the same time, I'm able to realize that I'm not sane in that way, and I'm able to realize that there are a lot of cheaper options out there that are really good as well, but they're just in a different level, and there are people who like to spend different kind of money on watches, and we shouldn't poo-poo that. We should just appreciate that we share the same hobby, no matter if you're wearing a Pagani Design Homage for $80, if you're wearing a Phoibos PY007 for $300, a Tudor for $4,000, or a Rolex for $10,000. It doesn't matter. We're in the same sphere. We're in the same collecting game, I started out collecting Seikos. Yeah, I started out way back with Casio when I was a small kid, and when I bought my first expensive watch, my wife bought me the Breitling. But when I started collecting for real, as getting interested in watches, I started out with Seiko, and now I have left the Seiko train, and I'm not interested in Seiko anymore. But we all start out somewhere, and we journey through this collecting experience. Sometimes we do it together when watching content like this, and watching other people's content and sharing our photos in the groups, but sometimes we're just doing it by ourselves. So my conclusion is that value doesn't matter to me. There are a lot of good cheap watches. There are a lot of good expensive watches. Sure, a lot of times, most of the times, when you buy a more expensive watch, there's something in there, something reflecting that price. You are paying for something, because in most cases, I'd say, that I've experienced, you're actually getting a better quality watch if you pay more. But I'm not sure that there's a cap for how much you can pay and how the quality level keeps up with the payment level. I have a hard time explaining it. Anyway, that's all from me for today, folks. I hope you liked the video. It was something different. It was my personal opinion about something, and I might be wrong. And please let me know if I'm wrong, if I'm out in the deep in this video. I may be way off, but that's just the way I see my collection and my interest in watches. I hope to see you again in the next video. Until then, bye bye.